The night above Earth's orbit was calm, a sea of endless black dotted with quiet stars. In the deep void, far beyond the moon's silver light, the human listening station Vigil floated like a lonely lighthouse. Its crew of 12 expected another quiet shift. Space was usually predictable, nothing but the faint radio hum of distant stars and the routine ping of civilian ships crossing the lanes. But then, without warning, every console lit up. At first, the crew thought it was a glitch. The radar screens flashed red, alarms screamed, and the comms began spitting static so thick it rattled in their ears. Technician May Carter tapped her display, frowning. "That's not possible," she whispered. Out in the void, something massive had just appeared. No warp signature, no approach trail, nothing. It was as if thousands of ships had simply blinked into existence. Captain Darius Hale leaned over the main display. His eyes widened. The readout didn't lie. An Armada was there, hanging in the dark like a silent wall of steel. Thousands of warships, their hulls shimmering with alien light, stretching so far they blotted out half the starfield. The Imperial crest, a black serpent coiled around a burning sun, was stamped on every vessel. But something was wrong. Armadas did not travel like this. To arrive without any detectable energy spike meant technology far beyond what humans knew. Worse, they hadn't announced themselves. No greeting, no challenge, not even a warning. They just sat there, silent, watching. "Open a channel," the captain ordered. May tried. The system responded with nothing but cold static. She switched frequencies, boosted signal strength, cycled through every protocol in the book. Still nothing. It was as if the Imperial fleet wasn't even receiving, or worse, was ignoring them entirely, back on Earth. Defense Command received the same alert. Within minutes, the skies filled with human warships scrambling to position. The orbital defense. Grids powered up, massive cannon barrels rotating toward the unknown fleet. Fighters launched in tight swarms. Civilian traffic was ordered into lockdown. The world below had not yet been told, but in the quiet halls of power, fear was already spreading. In the void, the Imperial ships drifted closer. Their formation was perfect lines of cruisers flanked by heavy carriers, spearheaded by a colossal flagship that dwarfed anything the human navy possessed. Its hull glowed with shifting red veins like molten rivers beneath black armor. Not a single weapon was visibly charged, but every sensor reading screamed danger. Inside the Vigil, the air was tense. Ensign Radcliffe muttered, "They're just staring at us." His voice was low, almost like he feared the fleet could hear him through the vacuum. May glanced at the captain. "Sir, should we?" She never finished. The Imperial flagship pulsed. Not with light, but with presence. A strange vibration passed through the station, like the hum of a giant's heartbeat. Every crew member felt it in their bones. Systems flickered. Screens froze. For 3 long seconds, they were blind. When the displays returned, the fleet was closer. So close the details of their alien hull plating were visible on the monitors. Still no message. No ultimatum. Only the steady advance. On Earth, generals debated furiously. Some argued for a preemptive strike, fearing that waiting would mean certain death. Others demanded restraint, pointing out that the Imperials had not yet fired.
No one
could explain how they had arrived or why. And then, amidst the argument, the fleet stopped. The silence was crushing. Every human eye in orbit fixed on the alien wall. And then, without warning, the flagship spoke. The voice was deep, mechanical, and carried a weight that seemed to press on the mind itself. Earth will kneel or burn. 3 seconds later, weapons began to glow. Red energy gathered along, the Imperial fleet casting eerie light across the void. The hum in the air grew sharper, like the hiss of a blade being drawn. The human defense forces scrambled into tighter formation. Orders rang out, missiles armed, shields flared to life. And then, it happened. Between 2 Imperial cruisers, space seemed to bend. At first it looked like a trick of light, a faint distortion in the starlight. But it grew, stretching like a shadow, peeling itself from the void. Shapes emerged, long, jagged, impossible shapes that did not match any known design. The distortion thickened, becoming solid until a massive black silhouette hung there. It had no running lights, no visible markings. Its surface seemed to drink in every beam of light that touched it, leaving its shape blurred at the edges. Even the stars behind it looked wrong, as if bent around the vessel. No one had seen it arrive. Not the Imperials, not the humans. One moment the space was empty, the next. It was there. Imperial sensors must have detected it then, because their formation shifted. Several warships turned to face the black shape, weapons re-aiming. The humans aboard Vigil exchanged terrified looks. This was something new, something that neither side seemed prepared for. On the comms, static suddenly cleared. Voice cold, flat, and imperfect, unaccented human English spoke across every channel, overriding all signals. Leave human space now. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Imperials did not reply. They were warriors. Their pride would not allow them to retreat before firing. The order was given. Energy flared. But in the instant before the first shot could be loosed, the black silhouette moved out. And it moved fast. 1 second, it was distant. The next, it was inside the Imperial formation. No human eye could follow its path. It simply blurred through the void, and when it stopped, 2 Imperial cruisers were gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Empty void, where they had been. Every console aboard Vigil erupted in frantic data mass readings. Vanishing, energy spikes, without known signature, gravitational distortions, like nothing in human records. The Imperial fleet hesitated. Even their battle-hardened crews could not mask their shock. The black vessel drifted slowly now, as if daring them to fire again. No heat signatures, no shield readings, no weapon ports visible. Just that smooth, lightless hull and the oppressive presence that seemed to press on every living mind. The humans didn't know what it was. The Imperials didn't either. But in that moment, one thing was certain. The war they thought they were about to fight had just changed. The void seemed to hold its breath. Every ship, human and Imperial alike, waited for the next move. The black vessel floated between the fleets, its silhouette jagged yet strangely symmetrical, like something designed for war and nothing else. No light touched its surface wherever it drifted. The stars themselves seemed to vanish behind it. On board the Vigil, Captain Hale gripped the edge of his console so tightly his knuckles turned white. The readings made no sense. No drive signature. No detectable reactor? No life signs. "It's not alive," May whispered, scanning her display. "Or it's hiding in ways we can't even imagine." The captain didn't answer. His gaze stayed locked on the screens. The Imperial flagship moved first. Its massive hull turned toward the black vessel, red energy burning along its weapon spines. Around it, hundreds of escort ships adjusted formation, their heavy guns glowing. They were done hesitating. The first shot came from an Imperial cruiser, a beam of crimson plasma, hot enough to vaporize an asteroid. It cut across the void like a blade of fire. It never reached the black ship. The beam hit something invisible, and bent, like light striking a mirror in the wrong direction. The energy rippled out in jagged waves and vanished. There was no explosion, no debris, just nothing. The black ship answered. It didn't fire a beam. It didn't launch a missile. It flashed. For less than a second, its surface erupted with thin arcs of blue light, so faint they were almost invisible. In that heartbeat, 6 Imperial destroyers simply winked out of existence. No wreckage, no signal. Gone. The Imperial fleet erupted in chaos. Commanders shouted orders in alien tongues, their formations breaking as ships tried to reposition. More plasma fire lit the dark, dozens of beams converging on the black vessel. All bent away. All vanished. Inside Vigil, May's voice shook. "Sir, it's not defending it. Ignoring them. Like their weapons aren't even real." The captain gave no reply. His eyes were fixed on the tactical readout, where Imperial ships were disappearing faster and faster. And then came the first sound. No. one in space should hear. Noise it was impossible in the vacuum. But somehow, the human crews felt it, a low, metallic thrum that vibrated through their bones, through the metal of their ships, through their very thoughts. It was like the black vessel was speaking without words. The next moment, it moved again, not flying jumping. One instant, it was ahead of the Imperial line. The next, it was behind them, cutting through their ranks like a shadow. Wherever it passed, ships vanished. The Imperials fought back hard now. Missiles streaked through space, detonating in spheres of fire big enough to swallow cities. Fighter craft swarmed in tight formations, darting at the black ship with rapid-fire cannons. None of it mattered. Every weapon either bent away, fizzled into nothing, or simply never reached its target. Then the flagship tried something different. Massive panels unfolded along its sides, revealing a weapon so large it dwarfed entire human warships. Its energy. Readings spiked off every scale the humans had. "They're charging a starbreaker," Radcliffe said, his voice cracking. "That thing could burn half the planet if they miss." The captain's eyes narrowed. Then they'd better not miss. Black Vessel didn't wait. Before the weapon could finish charging, it surged forward in a blur. It didn't ram. It didn't fire. It simply touched the flagship, and the flagship was gone. No explosion, no debris. Just gone, erased from existence like it had never been. There, the rest of the Imperial fleet froze in shock. The battle wasn't a battle anymore. It was a slaughter. And then, for the first time, the black ship turned toward Earth. Its presence was overwhelming, heavier than before. The hum in every ship's hull deepened into something almost unbearable, as if the void itself was pressing down. Across every channel, a single voice spoke against cold, calm, and absolute. "Human space is under my protection. Leave or be erased." The surviving Imperial ships didn't hesitate. They jumped. One by one, they tore themselves back into the dark, retreating in panic. In less than 7 minutes, the largest fleet ever assembled against Earth was gone. Only the black vessel remained. It didn't move, didn't speak again. Just hovered there between Earth and the stars like a silent sentinel. And for the first time in human history, no one was sure if they'd just been saved or claimed. The black vessel remained in orbit, silent and unmoving. It was neither threatening nor retreating, just there, like it was watching. From the surface of Earth, it was a small, dark star against the sunlit sky, barely visible to the naked eye. But in every control room, on every telescope feed, its presence was undeniable. In the war room beneath the United Earth Command Tower, the air was thick with unease. Screens showed close-up images of the ship. It even was a ship. No seams, no visible engines, no weapon mounts. Its surface shifted in subtle ways as if it was alive. "What do we even call it?" asked General Vargas, breaking the tense. Silence. "It's not human. It's not Imperial. Hell, it's not anything we've seen before." Dr. Leanne, the lead xenotechnologist, adjusted her glasses. "If it wanted to destroy us, it could have. If it wanted to leave, it would have. The fact that it's waiting means it has a purpose, and that purpose may involve us." "But why protect us from the Imperials?" Admiral Cole asked, leaning forward over the table. "If it's so powerful, why bother with us at all? We're ants compared to it." "That," Leanne said, "is exactly what scares me. Things don't usually help ants unless they want the nest for themselves." Out in space aboard the Vigil, Captain Hale still hadn't taken his eyes off the thing. His crew worked quietly, speaking in low voices, as if afraid the black vessel could somehow hear them. May was running another scan. "Sir, I've gone through every possible detection method. It's not just cloaking, it's system sits, rewriting the readings as we take them. Whatever it is, it's editing reality to keep us from knowing what it's made of." Hale's brow furrowed. "Editing reality?" "Yes," she said, her voice tense. "As in, the laws of physics bend around. Our sensors show what it wants them to show." On the far side of the vessel, smaller human ships drifted cautiously closer, hoping to gather better data. One got within a few kilometers before vanishing from every tracking feed. No explosion, no debris, it's gone dash again. An hour later, the ship reappeared far away, near Jupiter's orbit. The crew inside was alive but dazed, claiming they'd experienced no passage of time. To them, they had simply blinked, and the planet outside their window had changed. Inside the war room, panic began to creep into the edges of discussion. "This is not a protector," Vargas said flatly. "This is a god playing with us." Dr. Liane shook her head. "No, not a god. Something older. Something that doesn't think of us the way we think of ourselves." As the arguments grew louder, Hale noticed something new. The black vessel had shifted slightly, not toward Earth, but toward the Vigil. Sir?" Ratcliffe said, voice trembling. "It's locking onto us." Every crew member froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Then, through the comes-on, every frequency, in every language, the same cold voice as before spoke again. "Your enemies are gone. Now you will listen."
Ow.
The lights aboard the Vigil flickered. Every system screen went black. The hum returned low, deep, and all-consuming. And in that moment, every human in range felt the same thing in their bones. This was only the beginning. The voice echoed inside every human mind, as though the sound came from deep within their skulls instead of through speakers. There was no static, no distortion, only clarity so sharp it hurt. "Your species is unprepared, but you will become necessary." In the war room, dozens of officers froze mid-step, their arguments dying instantly. Dr. Liane's pen clattered to the table. Admiral Cole gripped the edge of the desk, his knuckles white. "What does it mean by necessary?" Vargas demanded, but no one answered. Out in orbit, Captain Hale felt the hairs on his arms rise. "Necessary for what?" "Well," he asked aloud, though the black vessel gave no direct reply. Instead, images began to flash in his mind, flashes of vast burning worlds. Alien fleets torn apart by weapons far beyond human comprehension. A darkness spreading across the stars like ink dropped in water. The visions were overwhelming. He staggered, clutching the side of his chair. May gasped, her hands over her eyes. "It's showing us something," she whispered. "It's not just talking, it's transmitting thought directly into our heads." Suddenly, the voice spoke again, its tone colder. "They are coming. They are older than empires. They erase all who remain. Your enemies were only the beginning." The words chilled the crew more than the destruction of the Imperial fleet ever had. If the Imperials were only the beginning, then whatever was next must be beyond anything humanity had ever faced. In the war room, the feed from the Vigil began to distort. Static rippled across the screens, but the image of the black vessel remained perfectly sharp. It had drawn closer, and for the first time, its surface began to change, shifting from smooth black to patterns that almost looked like writing. Dr. Liane leaned closer, her voice low. "It's a language, but it's not one I recognize. It might not even be for us. We could just be overhearing." On the Vigil, Hale forced himself to speak. "Why are you telling us this? Why warn us at all?" This time, the reply came like a blade sliding into his thoughts. "Because your kind is unpredictable, and that is the only thing that can hurt." Them, the words left a strange, heavy silence in their wake. Humanity, small, fragile humanity, was being marked as a potential weapon in some cosmic war they didn't understand. The black vessel began to turn away, drifting toward the shadow of the moon. For a moment, it looked like it might leave entirely. But then it stopped. "You will prepare, or you will end." And without warning, the vision ended, the hum ceased. Every system on the Vigil blinked back to life. On Earth, chaos erupted. Some called it a gift, others a threat. Leaders debated in desperation. Scientists tore apart every scrap of data. And ordinary people flooded the streets with fear and awe. But in orbit, Captain Hale knew one thing with absolute certainty. The black vessel wasn't done with them. It was only waiting. The days after the encounter were unlike anything Earth had experienced in centuries. Every major government, corporation, and scientific institution had dropped whatever they were doing to focus on one question: how to prepare for an enemy no one had ever seen. In underground bunkers, military leaders argued over fleet expansions. Orbital shipyards that had been dormant for decades lit up with construction lights. Every scientist who had ever worked on propulsion, weaponry, or deep space communications suddenly found themselves drafted into a program with no official name and no public explanation in the shadows. There were those who whispered that maybe the vessel's warning had been a trick that it wanted humanity to exhaust itself building weapons it didn't need. Some said the enemy it spoke of was just another word for humans themselves, but Captain Hale didn't have the luxury of doubt. His ship, the Vigil, was now assigned to patrol the far edge of human-controlled space. It was less a mission, and more of a watchtower duty, keeping eyes on the void where the unknown threat might come from. May spent every waking hour combing the sensor logs from the day of the encounter. It wasn't just showing us visions, she told Hale 1. Night. It was recording us. Right. I think it was studying how we reacted. That thought unsettled Hale more than he wanted to admit. If the vessel had been measuring them, testing their fear, their curiosity, their resolve, then it had already judged whether humanity was worth saving or worth using. Back on Earth, Dr. Leanne headed the largest decoding effort in human history. The shifting patterns on the vessel's hull were still being analyzed frame by frame. Slowly, pieces began to emerge: mathematical constants, star charts, and strange repeating symbols that didn't match any known alien language. And then they found something chilling. Among the symbols, one kept repeating over and over, always. Near a spiral-shaped mark, when translated through multiple pattern models, it read, "Time is almost gone." The clock was ticking. Human fleets doubled their readiness. New energy weapons were rushed into testing, some barely safe enough to fire. Civilian space traffic was cut to almost nothing. The border regions were placed under constant surveillance. But even with all this preparation, no one could shake the feeling that they were children fortifying a sandcastle against an unseen tie-dot on the far edge of the Sol system. Hale and his crew received a ping from Deep Space One, so faint it almost didn't register. It wasn't from any known ship, human or alien. The signal was steady, rhythmic, and identical to the tone the black vessel had used before speaking. May looked at him, her face pale. "It's back." Hale stared out into the darkness beyond the stars. "No," he said slowly. "It's calling us." As the Vigil drifted silently. Beyond the last human defense line, its hull shimmering under the cold light of distant stars. The call from deep space had been growing stronger, its pulse vibrating through the ship's structure like a heartbeat. Every crew member felt it not just in their ears, but in their bones. Hale sat in the command chair, eyes locked on the forward display. There, beyond the veil of darkness, space seemed wrong. A distortion rippled like heat haze swallowing the light of nearby stars. "Sir?" May's voice cracked slightly, crossing the point of no return. "Once we pass this threshold, no human ship has ever, I know," Hale interrupted.
"Take us in,"
the ship's engines whispered, and the Vigil slipped through the distortion. At once, the darkness exploded into light. An entire armada lay before them. But it wasn't human. Dozens of alien warships, each larger than a city, floated in silent formation. Their hulls glistened with strange metallic scales, and their weapons. Arrays glowed like embers. They weren't moving, weren't scanning. They were waiting. May's breath caught. They're not attacking. And then, between the colossal warships, something shifted. The black vessel appeared identical to the one they'd seen before, its surface alive with symbols. It drifted forward until it loomed before the Vigil. A voice not sound, but thought-filled. "Every mind on board, you came." Hale gritted his teeth. "You sent a warning. You said something was coming. T has come," as the words echoed in their minds. The alien warships turned not toward the Vigil, but toward the black vessel. And in that instant, the black ship moved. It was impossible to track. One moment it hung in space, the next it blurred across the alien formation. Entire warships tore apart in silence, their hulls folding like paper. Energy blasts meant to level planets splashed harmlessly against its shifting skin. In seconds, the Armada was gone. All that remained was drifting debris, cooling in the void. The black vessel turned back toward the Vigil. Now you know. No. What? Hale demanded the fate of those who crossed into human space. The ship pulsed once, and then it was gone, vanishing without a trace, leaving only the debris of an alien fleet that had been mighty minutes ago. May whispered, was it protecting us? Or warning us? Hale didn't answer. Deep down, he knew the truth. This was no ally. This was a gatekeeper. Humanity wasn't safe. It was owned. The Vigil turned for home, carrying news that would shake every corner of human space. Because one thing was certain. If the black vessel could do that to an entire armada, no one human or alien would ever truly be free.